MyDoma Studio is your complete designer toolkit. You know this, right? MyDoma makes it easy to streamline your processes, track your projects, communicate with clients, and just get organized. It is created by designers for designers, specifically to address what you need as a design business owner. MyDoma is now together with Studio Designer, and they are the industry-leading solution. With 20,000 plus users, more designers choose their platform than any other. Are you ready to reach the next level of profitability and efficiency? Book a demo with MyDoma Studio today by going to mydomastudio.com/LuAnn. That's mydomastudio.com/LuAnn. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Before we get into today's episode, I want to let you know that we're doing something a little different over the next several months. We're bringing back the most downloaded, the most talked about episodes from the last 9 years of A Well-Designed Business. These are the episodes that built businesses, that sparked aha moments, that turned you into an action taker. Now, if you're wondering why we're revisiting these episodes and what's changing with the show overall, well, I walk you through the full vision in our April 25th, 2025 episode titled The Big Shift, What's Changing on a Well-Designed Business and Why. That episode is linked for you in the show notes. Now, a quick heads up. These episodes are airing as they originally did. That means the music might sound familiar or it might be vintage. That means the event dates will definitely be out of date that I talk about. And it also means that any offers that are mentioned may or may not be valid still. But the insights, still golden. So whether it's your first time hearing this episode or your fifth time hearing it, there's something in this conversation for you right now in this season of your business. So here's the show. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, my friend Claudia Ricciardone of Claudia Josephine Design is with us. You know I love a good story about someone who has followed the advice of their peers on this podcast and has taken that advice and transformed their design hobby into a design business. I also love it when I've had the opportunity to witness this growth and success. And Claudia checks both of these boxes. We met back in 2017 after coaching with her a little. And since then, she has kept me updated throughout the years with her accomplishments and her successes. And I have to say I'm all the things. I'm proud of her. I'm happy for her. And I recently said to her, it's time to share your journey, your lessons, and your successes with everyone else. And so she's with us today. Claudia Josephine Design provides full-service interior designs with a focus on sustainable and eco-friendly designs and decor. In addition to her interior design business, Claudia is a certified green accepted professional, a member of the Sustainable Furnishings Council, and Maria Killam certified True Color expert. Today's show is sponsored by MyDoma Studio and my 7-figure Power Talk Friday tour, which is happening in just a couple of weeks, Friday, April 1st, 2022 at High Point. As you listen to Claudia today, notice of the many things that she attributes to her success. 2 of them are MyDoma Studio and her random meeting of 2 like-minded designers at a business event she attended. Those designers remain instrumental to her growth and success, and my guess is to her sanity as well, right? And this is one of the very special benefits of attending one of my Power Talk Friday tours. In addition to spending the day with me, the Vincennes, and Eileen Hahn, you are in a room for the entire day and night with business owners who do what you do, who know your troubles and your challenges, and could potentially be your designer besties that help you throughout the years. This Power Talk Friday tour is different. It's limited in the number of seats that we are having, and also it is limited to the firms that are doing 2 million gross revenues or more. Okay. I know if you're running a firm that size that you're looking for answers, and I know the questions and the concerns you have for your business are not the same as they were even a year or two ago. So join me and get the information, support, answers, and strategies that you need to run that big ship of yours. Go to powertalkfriday.com to sign up. Now, in my Doma Studio, wait until you hear Claudia explain how key My Doma Studio is in helping her provide an exceptional client experience because it enables her to be organized. She has everything for each client at her fingertips. No worries about forgetting to invoice, to send communication to vendors or trades. It gives her efficiency and peace of mind. Go to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business to learn more. All right, let me introduce you to Claudia. Hi, Claudia. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey, LuAnn. I am super excited to be here today.
I'm happy to have you here today, too, Claudia, because I love when I get a chance to talk to all of you, but I love when I have the opportunity to talk to somebody that I've been able to really practically, firsthand watch you build your career. You and I met each other back in 2017 and you did some coaching with me, and I really got to know your business and you and where you're at. And I've always appreciated, by the way, as you've grown, how you've randomly sent me an email or a text and letting me know of your latest accomplishments. I remember one time, what was it, 7 or 8 or 9 months after we worked together, you actually sent me a screenshot of your QuickBooks bank account balance.
Yeah.
It's exciting stuff.
Really excited.
Yes, it is exciting stuff. And so it's fun for me because I love to pick apart how somebody has built their business, and I love it when you're not so far away from it that you can look back and see and remember clearly the things that were hard and also the things that worked. But also to have watched you do it firsthand is fun. So, all right. So today we're going to talk about some of those things. Some of those, you described to me that on reflection that there are pain points that you can recall having gone through. And, we both agreed that it's probably a great lesson for the interior designers, your colleagues out there that are 3 or 4 or 5 years behind you, and to kind of, get a little shorthand for them, right? So talk to us a little bit about your reflection on the pain points that you went through and how you had to start to come out of them and look at your business differently.
Sure. Well, let me give you a little background information, which I know you already know, but for people who are listening, my original career, I was a school psychologist, and I also was an adjunct psychology professor. So I taught psychology, and I was making the transition from a job or a career as a school psychologist to then a stay-at-home mom, and then eventually I established an interior design business. There's a concept in psychology that pain is what causes a person to grow. But a lot of times you'll see people who will be experiencing pain, they'll complain about that pain. And so what pushes you to that point where you actually will come up with a solution, right, and get past that pain? It's when the pain has grown worse than the perception you have of the pain it'll take to grow, right? So when there's a pain point, you ask yourself, what quality do you need to develop in order to move past the pain point? And I've also got a quote from Michael Beckwith that I love. And I'm going to paraphrase this actually, but he says that pain pushes you until a greater vision begins to pull you. right? So
Mm.
I'm sort of painting a picture here. So here I am, psychologist, now stay-at-home mom, and I'm switching to a career as an interior designer. The project that really moved me into interior design, made me realize I could make a career out of it, was building our own custom home. So we did that, turned out great. People asked who our designer was, and then people started asking me to help them to design, and eventually what was a hobby started to morph into more of a career. Um, but as it did, I realized, like, it's one thing to help your friends, right? Here, let me help you pick out a sofa or,
Mm.
some draperies or something. But it's another thing when a person who doesn't know you, a client, is putting their trust in you. They You are helping them to make decisions that could potentially be very costly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could either help them to make good decisions or poor decisions. And yeah, and I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to charge a person? Like, in the world of psychology, I had all this training, 2 graduate degrees, internships, work experience, lots of experience. And in design, I didn't have that level of experience or training. So that was really my first pain point. I needed to get additional training in order for me to feel confident meeting with clients, giving them advice, knowing that I was giving them good advice. And so my first step was I took Maria Killam's True Color Expert certification, and that helped build my confidence. Initially, I really started off doing color consultations before I started delving more into more like full scale design. Taking Maria's course helped me in multiple ways, and ways that you would actually not expect. And I really do feel like, I'm going to get a little woo woo here, but I do feel like if you allow the if you kind of tap into the wisdom of the universe, whether that's God or just a higher power, I really feel like it brings you to where you need to be.
Mm.
So when I was at Maria Killam's course, I got seated with 3 other budding interior designers. So one was Kate Holcomb from Kate Holcomb Designs, one was Bree Hayes from Harlow Hayes, and then the other one was Max Breedlove, who now actually went on to be an attorney. So
Yeah.
her career went a little, differently, but um, and those 3 women were so important in helping. We all helped each other to build our careers. So I would listen to your podcast and I would remember hearing about people doing masterminds. So we formed our own little mastermind and we would listen to your podcast and we would take those lessons that everybody was, saying you needed to do, and we would start to incorporate it. So not only did I get Maria's training and the confidence that I got in knowing that I could specify color and do it well, I also was able to build a really good network of like-minded women, and we all supported one another. So it was really an excellent experience, and we're still all really good friends. And I still do masterminds with Bree and with Kate.
Well, I have to say, you know what? It's funny because I know that you've listened to the show from the very beginning, Claudia, and I know you've probably heard me 1,000 times do the promo spot for the Power Talk Friday tours or the LuAnn University courses or LuAnn Live. And one of the things that, in addition to the content that I'm explaining that is going to be available at any one of these ways to work with me, one of the things I'm always hammering home is you don't know who you're going to meet here. That's really going to be that designer colleague that continues to inform and improve your business skills beyond the day of the event that you are attending through my platform, right? Because I've watched it over
Right.
and over and over again where designers make a connection. Just like you said, you were randomly sat with these 2 women. You didn't pick them. You didn't pick them from a Facebook group and make a decision, to sit with them. And yet look how instrumental they became, three women, how the three of them became
Right.
in the formation of the beginning of your career. And I literally, I could, off the top of my head, I could probably, I'm visualizing at least 4 or 5 pairs of designers that I know have experienced this from my events, let alone, like you said, events like Maria Killam and whatever else is out there. So I love that you did that. Now, the thing about doing that is you have to take the initiative, right? You have to say, one of you has to say, I've really enjoyed working and meeting you women throughout the course of this seminar. Do you want to continue this? Would you like to do this with me?
Right.
And that's where you have to have the courage to do that, because sometimes we think it and we, the crap that we say in between our ears, right? Well, maybe they won't want to. La la la. It just ask, right?
Right.
Just ask. So I love it. I
Yes.
think that's so great. And the thing is, I think you would agree. Probably, we talk about all of the things that are part of our past that contribute to where we are. And we've known many designers that have not taken any courses, that have just winged it from day one. But I think that's that particular spin about you. Like when you talked about your multiple MBAs and your internships and your work experience, it's very logical for me to see that you would say, hey, I was successful in this arena, and some of that had to be based on my education. So, in order to set myself up for success over here, it makes sense that I should seek out some education. So, it's a personal thing. I don't think it's
Right.
ever a bad thing for anybody. But it is interesting always to see what motivates us and how it's rooted in our past experiences, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
cool.
I am a nerd at heart. So I love to learn. I love to take courses. I read all the time. And so I think for me, that is my pathway to learning
To
is
confidence in
through
learning. Yep.
formalized courses or right and confidence and certainly you have to then you learn the knowledge, but then you do have to apply it
Yes.
because you really only get good once you apply that knowledge. But I do think for me, having that knowledge allows me to build that confidence so that I can get that experience to it's like it it's self-perpetuating,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I get more confidence, I get more
Yep.
experience, I get more knowledge.
Exactly. And it's funny because I'm similar. I don't typically do it in a formalized setting like that, but I've said on the podcast, how many times when I was, 43 or whatever years old, and I was going to run my first half triathlon, a sprint triathlon, I should say. I had been running, biking, and swimming my entire life, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I got to read books on this. like, and my
Right.
husband's looking at me like, what do you do? But you always do learn something. But here I am, leading up to the try, reading every single book I could order from Amazon on how to run a triathlon. So I agree. It's what motivates you, but it does. I'm similar. If I read it and then I go apply it, I'm like, oh, I got this. I own this information now. So I love
Right.
it. And then what
Right.
happens now is, I know from when I first met you, the next phase for you was taking the quote unquote hobby business into real business, right? Like you started to get serious and say, oh,
Right.
okay, this isn't just something that I do. Tell us about that mindset transition for you and some of the things that you did in order to actually transition from hobby to business.
Yeah, so I'll tell you sort of a funny story about that. I had been doing interior design as my side hustle, right? Being a mom full time, really, and getting some experience in interior design. But, we would meet with the accountant, and the accountant would say, Claudia, that's great. You made a little money, but you've got to make more. The government's going to start thinking this is a hobby. And then every so often, my husband, we're sort of straight with one another.
Mm.
So, no filter, I say. So, like my husband would be like, Claudia, you could go to Starbucks and make more as a barista. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to decide. And at the same time, um, the supervisor from the county where I used to work as a school psychologist had contacted me and they were offering me a job. So I was really at a crossroads. Was I going to go back to work as a psychologist? Was I going to really try to make a go of it as an interior designer? And I knew in my heart that I really wanted to be an interior designer. I loved my career as a school psychologist, but I felt like I was in a different phase of my life, and I really wanted to make a go of interior design. So I needed to get my team into place, and I needed to move from viewing it as a hobby to a real job. And so, again, I'm going to go back to my background, my education. So in addition to my degrees in psychology, I double minored in sociology and art history. So you see, I always had sort of
Mm.
that creative artsy part of me.
Mm-hmm.
But in sociology, we learn the concept of pink collar work. And so pink collar work is traditionally women's work, right?
Mm.
Teaching, nursing, service professions, secretaries. And generally, they tend to be lesser paid than jobs that are male dominated. But also, if you have a male in the same position, they tend to make a higher wage than women. So even within the field of interior design, males tend to be paid better. They tend to own, according to a trade magazine, it's called Contract magazine, men own more of the top interior design firms. And I had to stop and think about it. Like, why is that? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of Facebook online interior design groups, and I'll often see how women respond compared to men. And
Mm-hmm.
these, of course, are generalizations. This isn't everybody, right? I don't want to stereotype anyone. But for women, a lot of women get into it. They are doing it more as a hobby, it's something on the side. They may have a husband who's a primary breadwinner, which was my situation, right? So I had a little bit more of the luxury of being able to do it as a side gig versus my primary source of income. But when I see people responding in the interior design groups, a lot of times the women will worry, am I charging too much, or am I doing this correctly, or I know I need to set this boundary, but it's really hard for me to set the boundary. And then I see the men respond. They're like, if you want to make X amount per year, this is what you got to charge. This is what it is. Like, there's no hemming and hawing. There's no, oh my gosh, I feel badly, or am I worth it, or is my confidence good enough? It's just sort of like, this is what it is. And I think that in general, you know, because a lot of women have families or because they might have a spouse that's the primary breadwinner, and that's not everybody, right? A lot of
Right.
women have to hustle, raise their families, and do it all on their own. um, but there's been a little bit more wiggle room to accept less money, to not set those boundaries. And I realized that I wasn't going to have a successful real career unless I learned to act not out of like feeling guilty or wanting to always, I mean, of course, I always want to please my clients and I'm still a people pleaser, but I really had to start making decisions based on real financial numbers, what I needed to earn. I mean, because, even with my husband as a primary breadwinner, I still want to be able to put away for retirement, save for
Mm-hmm.
my child's college education, to be able to maybe take a nice vacation every so often, to give to charities if that's what I want to do. So I needed to create that team. So again, this is going to go back to your podcast. You'll hear me reference your podcast all the time. I swear, guys, I wasn't paid by LuAnn to say these things. Like, genuinely, her podcast has been like one of the most influential um, influences on my new career, or not new anymore, but as
Right.
I started my career and even as I'm progressing through my career. So I needed to get a bookkeeper, which I did. I also needed to get a professional photographer. For anyone starting off, get some, once you do a couple projects, even if you're designing in your own home, hire the best photographer you can afford.
Mm.
Hiring a great photographer is what actually I got me published in my first magazine, in Lux Lifestyle magazine. It is I think really key. I got a good attorney who drafted up an airtight contract. Now, my contract might be a little wordy, and we may need to slim it down a little bit. But that contract has made it clear, not only does that contract protect you, right? Because that's the primary reason people get really good contracts, but it also helps clarify to clients what's included, what's expected, and it also protects them because your clients have the right to be well served by your business. So that was important. I hired a website designer because I am tech challenged, so
Yeah, right.
that wasn't going to work for me. But I'm good at writing copy. So she put it together and made it beautiful, and that also helped grow my business. And one other really key thing was my Doma Studio. So it's a project management system. I know you guys work closely with my Doma. And I remember when I was on the fence, because obviously I wasn't at the time where I was starting my business, I wasn't making a lot, but right, but all these are big expenses, good photographer, attorney, accountant, bookkeeper. And I thought, do I really need my Doma?
Mm.
Yes, absolutely. My husband said, if this is a real business, you have to treat it like a real business. And if you had a business, you would need some sort of project management system. So I signed up for my Doma. It was even for a not tech savvy person. I found it pretty easy to learn, and the customer support was really great. I still use their customer support when I'm having tech issues, and they're very helpful. But it was key because there was no way, especially as I moved into high-end design and doing a lot of custom furnishings and decor, there would be no way that I could keep track of everything. And it makes it so easy, both for me and for my clients. So those were all key to really setting a good groundwork for my business.
So what I'm hearing is that the transition from hobby to business is literally looking at it with clear eyes. And like your husband said, Claudia, if this is a business, what you need a platform to run a business on. You're not going to sit here and do it on post-it notes, right? And I think it's
Right.
interesting that your husband had that perspective, going back to your other point about how more women tend to trudge along with a quasi hobby business for more years than I guess I would say, Claudia, for more years than men do, and possibly, to your other point, women that are the sole breadwinner, right? Because I think that's what it is.
Right.
So there's something in that, in whatever our circumstances are, if we have the safety of it, of another income, whether that's a partner or an inheritance or whatever the situation is, it tends to, I think it's I think it's human nature to have a fear surrounding making the investment in yourself and your business. And if you don't have to,
Hmm.
and you can put it off longer because something else is taking care of your basic needs, then you can drag it out longer. Like, that's what I see. That's what I see. It's like, if I'm
Right.
working or talking with a designer, if they're, I have, I've worked with designers that they are the single mom, they are the only breadwinner. And the attitude is different. The attitude is like, I am still
Hmm.
scared. I'm still wondering, can I invest in my Doma studio? But if you tell me I got to do it, then that's what I got to do because this has to work. We need the rent paid. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so it's just
Right.
like, it's that shift. And to your point, it is generalizations, and because generalizations generally, there are a lot more women that have the luxury of not being the primary breadwinner. That's just the way our society has been to thus far. Of course, it's changing, and thankfully so, right? But I would even relate it to
Right.
my experience with launching the podcast. So the similar experience is that we have Window Works, and Window Works at that point was a 35-year business, and it was successful, and it was paying, for itself and for all of our employees and our house and our lifestyle and everything. And when I went to do the podcast, it was funny because I did the business plan. I sat the Vincennes down and I put it all in front of them. And, I had it all on paper and I could see it. And I really could see the trajectory, the growth, and okay, then there would be this book, and then there would be that book. And this is, how I would access people to do these books. And this is, how I would do a live event. And this is, we would end up morphing into one-day coaching things. I mean, I literally could see it all. But what was interesting is that there were times along the way when, I remember the first time I went to do a Power Talk Friday in Las Vegas. It was probably about a $10,000 investment in order to put it on the line to just pull it off. Plane tickets for us there, hotel for us there, the food, the things, all the stuff. And I thought the idea was a great idea. I thought all of the thing would work. And I remember it got to be about 8 weeks before. And I looked at Vinny and I said, I got to pull the trigger on this. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, I got to pull the trigger on this. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, it's like 10 grand if it doesn't work. And he's like, Lou, you're never going to know if you don't do it. And I was like, dang it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so there's still, whoever you are, no matter how many years seasoned you are, what I'm saying is you can see something very clearly, but you can still have the fear. The difference is, do you just accept the word, the advice, the encouragement, the confidence from the person you rely on, whether it's a designer bestie, a business advisor, in my case, the Vincennes. He could have said, if you're never going to do it, you're never going to know if you don't do it. I still could have said, yeah, maybe in another 6 months, maybe we'll do it the next time the Vegas market comes around. But I didn't. And I trusted him. And I was like, this is a good idea. Just do it. You know what I'm saying? So yes. And of course I did have my bills paid. So there's that too, right? We would lose $10,000. That would not be a happy moment. Okay. But the thing was, the point of view is that if you're running a business, there is no getting around making an investment in that business. That's the point. So whether the investment is to take a shot on running a one-day coaching event, or the investment is to, doing my Doma studio when you really don't have a lot of income, but you know that this is how you should build your projects so that they're clean and organized, and the very first client has an amazing experience because you've got it organized. Or if it's because you need to invest in coaching like Maria Killam, and therefore it turns you not only to the confidence of that, but also the people that you meet. I mean, this is the crux of it, right? You said it in the beginning, when the pain that you're in isn't as bad, or how do you say it again? The pain that you're in is becoming worse than the pain that you think it is good to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Your perception of the pain that you're going to feel if you go through the steps that you need to take in order to make that change. And so I mentor beginning new interior designers. And oftentimes they'll say to me, oh, I just don't have the project that's worthy of spending the money on to pay for a really high-end professional photographer, or, oh, I'm not ready yet to put up my website. But you just have to get to a point where you say, this needs to be done and I'm going to do it. And I know sometimes it's hard to make that investment, especially when you are in the beginning of your business and you're really putting more into it than maybe you're earning from it, but it really is important. So my father, he's now a custom home builder. He became one after he retired, but he used to be a restaurant owner. You can't open up a restaurant without having, right, your physical
hundreds
space,
of thousands of
having
dollars,
all your equipment, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And only, I think the last I heard, only maybe 20% of restaurants are successful and stay in business. Thankfully, his were all very successful. I think that's where I get my entrepreneurial spirit from. But he had to make those big investments. And my parents are Italian immigrants, and they came to this country with, something, but not a lot. And so they really had to make that investment and believe in it and just work really, really hard. And I
Mm.
think, they were a great role model for me in terms of what I need to do to grow my business. You know, this business didn't grow by accident.
Hmm.
You know,
Right.
I mean, I definitely took advantage of the opportunities that came my way, but it was very systematic in my approach. Whereas, so this is kind of ironic, but I always give clients a client satisfaction survey after we've completed a project because I always want to know how I can grow, what I can do to make my business better. And usually it's right, lots of accolades. And I say to clients, I know you're being nice and you want to tell me all the good stuff, but honestly, if there's a something that I could improve upon, please let me know because that is how I improve my business and that's how I grow my business. And so if there is something that clients say, like for instance, one recent client said to me, I think I would have preferred, and I happen to use a flat fee model at this point,
Okay.
but at the time I was trying to, right, being a people pleaser, I try to accommodate everyone. So she was used to an hourly fee model. And so she requested that I do an hourly fee model. And I did that for very small things, but not usually for bigger projects like we were doing. And then when we were done with her project, the feedback that I got was, I wish we had done this at a flat fee
Mm.
model. And I realized that when I would try to accommodate people by moving away from my process, it almost always backfired, right?
Mm.
Like I would maybe, like in the beginning, I was afraid to charge a margin on trade product that I was selling. Well, I mean, first of all, right, it's a business. Like you don't go
Don't get
to
me started,
Target
Claudia.
and you don't expect to pay Target's wholesale price when you go to Target. You
You
know there's going to
don't?
be a
You mean
margin
you don't
because,
stand there at the customer
right.
service desk and demand to know what Target paid for that?
Yeah, I know,
Oh,
exactly.
God.
So you don't do that. But somehow in this industry, people expect that, some people, right? Not everybody, but some people expect you're going to give away your entire discount. Well, then you have no place to go but down
Right.
because let's say now I've sold the dresser, right? Yes, yes, I've made design fees, right? But let's say I sell the dresser at my wholesale price. Now the dresser comes in and it's damaged. And maybe it's not damaged enough that the company will like take it back, but now I've got to bring my furniture repair person to repair it. And now I've got to try to get that reimbursed through the company. And maybe I don't have the time to do it, so I've got to pay my assistant to do that. Or it comes in and it's the wrong color, or there's some other issue, right? That's going to take away from your bottom line. So you're trying to sell it to someone at your cost because you think that's maybe being nice or that's what you're supposed to do. And you're actually losing money from your business. So there's no point. You're taking on a large liability. What I wish in this industry, because it is sort of all over the board. I wish there's some more standardization in terms of I think back in the day, old school, before I was even an interior designer, there was a standard markup that
Mm-hmm.
you would do. It was a certain percentage. I'm not going to quote that because I don't think people are even getting close to that anymore. Because now there's so much competition with the internet. But certainly there's a manufacturer suggested retail price, and that is a fair price to sell your product at. I typically sell at a discount to that, but I'm still making a margin. And um, this does actually bring me into my next point of, you know, the right guides will come. So when the student is ready, the teacher will come. From the very beginning of my business, I always wanted to make sure I was running a very ethical business, that I was serving my clients well, and also important that I made a profit like a real business, right? So I think you can do all three of those things really well. But I'm Catholic. The Catholic guilt always kicks in. I'm a people pleaser. So you could tell me, LuAnn, Claudia, you need to do this standard markup, and you have grown to, this standard of designability, and you should be charging this much for your designs. You could tell me that, but I'll say, oh, LuAnn, I feel that's maybe I'm being a little elitist, like
Can I
that
interrupt you for a
only
second
like
here? Let me just interrupt you for a second
right.
here. Do you remember the conversation that we had about this in 2017? I
Yes,
mean, do you
I
remember that I
do.
used the
I
example
do.
to you of a lawyer? Do you remember that?
I
So you were
that I
having
don't
trouble.
remember. No, I
You
don't.
okay, so you were having trouble. I can remember I was sitting in my car. We had a coaching session and I had to do it in between window works appointments then. And I was sitting in my car
I do. Yeah.
and you're explaining this to me that I need to be ethical, and I'm afraid if I charge this, and going through the whole thing that you're describing. And I remember saying to you, I said, let me
Yes.
just say something to you. You got a lawyer, and you're supposed to go to court with this lawyer. Okay, because what I was going through was exactly that. If you are not selling this at enough markup, and then you have to then get the work done and get a repair done, or follow or chase it down because it came in damage or because it came in wrong, and you've got to chase all that down, you didn't want to charge for those hours. I remember you did not want to. Oh, I don't think I could charge
Right.
for those hours. I was like, you don't? Because are you going to do it or are they going to do it? Well, I mean, I think I should do it for them because
Right.
that's part of the thing. And I was like, let's just say there's a lawyer. You're going to go with your lawyer. You have to meet at court. And your lawyer gets out of his or her home at 9 o'clock in the morning and drives an hour to court, looks at you, smiles. You both go sit in the bench and you're sitting there in the court waiting, waiting, waiting. And they say, oh, the judge will be late. And you're waiting, waiting, waiting. The judge will be late. Waiting, waiting, waiting. I said, maybe it's 2.5 hours later. They finally say, oh, court's recessed. The judge had emergency, isn't coming. I said, the lawyer then drives back the hour back to his office, and then you get a bill for 4 hours. Like, do you think he says, yeah, it
Right.
wasn't your fault that the judge didn't come, so I'm not going to charge you? I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've
Yes.
told that
I
story a
do
hundred
remember that
times.
now. Yes.
So I'm
And
glad,
you
though.
made another really
What's that?
yeah. I was going to say, and you made another really important point, I think, during one of those sessions too, because what I realized, I think, during that time was my superpower was not the sort of budget design. Like I
Right.
can do that. I can, go pull stuff from Home Goods and Target and stuff and put something really pretty together. But that wasn't my superpower. My superpower was really doing the high-end, layered, high quality product designs. And I remember also having a lot of guilt thinking, well, if I cater to that super high end or the really high end, I'm leaving other people without the benefit
Mm,
of my service. And you had actually said you are doing them a disservice by and you said it much more eloquently, but basically you were saying if my superpower is doing high end design, a luxury design, then I'm doing the person who maybe would benefit from someone whose superpower, if I'm trying to accommodate everyone,
right.
maybe they would be better accommodated by someone whose superpower is doing like, thrifting and really budget design, right, high low, who really enjoys it, right.
And is going to put their whole heart and passion into it, and instead of being like a little like I'm doing this to make you happy, but I'm not really happy. Like we don't show up as our best self if we're not in the zone of our best self. And that was what I was trying to help you understand. That was your
Um,
journey. That was your journey
but
of coming
I
to
have
that,
to
right?
say that was my
Yeah.
journey. And since then, I've gotten a lot better in terms of and this is one of this is feedback that I get from clients all the time, and probably it came in part from that experience, but they do say that I'm a very good listener. I listen to their
Mm,
wants and needs, and I've really gotten to the point now where for the most part, right, as long as the client is the right fit, I listen to their wants and needs, and I try really hard to give them what they want, and and typically in the budget of, where we're
Exactly.
aiming for. Now, I have to say, I've also become a little, and this is what I'm working on, right? Because I've become a little maybe too honest in that
Mm,
initial conversation, the discovery call, where I'll say, like, this is, what my typical room costs, or, this is my design fee before. And, a lot of times going into working with an interior designer, especially if someone hasn't worked with one before, even if you have the budget, you don't know
right.
what you don't know. So if it's your first time working with an interior designer and you haven't really sat down to price out everything, even let's say you want to do a room through Restoration Hardware, just doing retail source, right? The client can do on their own. If you price out a sofa and a rug and a table and a side table and a console and artwork and lamps from Restoration Hardware, you could be easily looking at a
Absolutely.
$25,000 room. Uh, I could provide a $25,000 room, but with higher quality furnishings. Nothing against Restoration Hardware,
No,
but
yeah.
I I have a training in eco and sustainable, and I make sure for most of my projects where I can, I'm using high quality, sustainably made furnishings that are really meant to last
Mm,
generations. Like how they
yes.
used to make things.
Back in the day.
Um, but right? But if on your very first phone call with the client, you're like, and recently my typical family room has been the furnishings and decor and everything all included, averages probably between 35 and
Hmm.
$42,000. Now, that's a
Right.
car.
Right.
So, you know, saying something like that in your first conversation would probably scare away someone who even could afford the services. So I am in the process of really trying to find a balance of being honest, but not scaring away potential clients by giving them
Mm,
everything all at once. But because, like, the industry standard now is, right, to have clients pay for that initial consultation because you're doing a lot of prep work, you're giving your ideas, you're giving your intellectual knowledge away at that first meeting if you are
mm.
discussing ideas and telling them what you would recommend. Um, but again, for me, I don't want to charge people that initial consultation fee if I know I am out of their price point. It's better to not have
Yes.
that. You know what I'm saying? It's better to not go to that point if they really know if I really know a client is not going to be able to afford my design services and make the investments that are required to create the rooms on my website. And so that's what a lot of times potential clients will come to me and say, I saw your gorgeous work on your portfolio, and I'd love to have a room like that, and my budget is
Right.
five
Yeah.
grand.
Sorry.
And I have to honestly tell them, I'm like, to achieve that room, we're not going to be able to do it for
Right.
5,000. Like there is a minimum investment that will have to be made to achieve something like that. And these are really challenging, difficult discussions to have. Like even as you and I are having this conversation, and I'm thinking, oh man, other people are going to be listening to this, and I'm talking
Yeah.
about money. Like I'm having this reaction, like, oh man, my mom's going to listen to this and be like, Claudia, what are you talking
It's not
about?
polite to talk about
Um,
money in public.
right, right. But it's very important. So it is that you have to become comfortable with talking about money and being honest and saying it in a way that's not apologetic, but also
Hmm.
that balance, right, of not scaring
Hmm.
people away or making it seem like, oh, I'm sorry, I just cannot work with you
Right.
because,
Right.
you
Well, there's a
cannot
difference
afford
in a
me.
conversation that is
There's a balance.
showing respect, but integrity through it, as opposed to a conversation that is, you know,
Right,
um, being what's the word, like denigrating and uppity, right? Like it's like there's a difference, and honesty,
right,
if someone
right,
doesn't appreciate an honest conversation, then I don't know, they're not my target client to begin with, right? Like what are we're gonna pretend throughout a 7 or 8 month or a year long
right,
relationship to dance around each other? But the thing about it is I
right.
think that when the consumer doesn't understand and says, hey, I thought I was going to spend 10,000 or $15,000 on my family room or my whatever. It's a lot of times that consumer has never even added up what they have in their own house. And I can't remember which episode it was throughout the years, but I remember a designer, someone did point out this aspect of a conversation. Even when you talk about right, even when you talk about the client demographic that is going to spend money to design a room. Let's just say it that way, right? Like they're going in expecting they're going to spend money, but if they haven't ever done a room from zero to completion in one fell swoop, this designer, whoever it was, described how even your average garden variety human doesn't realize that if they sat there and looked at their living room, that they started, designing themselves when they bought their house, that 10 years later, there's probably $40,000 or $50,000 worth of product in it, because you never just went plunk, here's 50 grand. But one year you bought a sofa and it was 2,000. Maybe it wasn't 20 like a custom sofa would be, but it was 2. But maybe the rug was 7 or 8 or 10 because you fell in love with it on vacation or whatever. And then the chandelier and then the this and that. And I think, and remember hearing that and thinking, oh, I don't really consider myself someone that would spend 50 grand or 40 grand on a room. But then I was like, start to add it up, sweetie. Like, just because you didn't buy it all at once, you did do it. And that's, I always felt, was a great conversation breaker for when you're doing what you were just describing. Trying to have the moment where you're honestly laying out what the budget costs. And if you get that little knee-jerk reaction, you sense that, whoa, I didn't think I was going to spend 45 on the family room. That seems crazy. If you're in their home and you can see that they actually probably have, even though they've done it over years, it's a great way to point it out and say, look, this isn't really out of line. Think about it. I'm looking at your home. I'm noticing XYZ, XYZ. And if you can just kind of rattle it off the top of your head, maybe that was 8, maybe that was 5, maybe that was 2. You've done it before, but the difference is now, are you in a position where you choose to do it in one fell swoop? And that's what interior design, luxury interior design is. I'm going to come in and I'm going to design it for you, and we're going to deliver it all at once. And that's the difference. And if you want that, then I'm your lady. If you don't, I get it. Go back and do it for 10 more years and have the same room, but it won't be as pretty and it won't be as nice. It'll take you 10 years to get it.
Yeah.
But that is because design is luxury no matter what. I don't care if somebody's room is going to cost $15,000 or it's going to cost $115,000. When you engage with an interior designer for their expertise, you have just crossed into giving yourself a luxury as a consumer, right? You can ask your partner to give you a massage, or you can go to the spot and pay $100 for it. Right? Like, I mean, like, it's a luxury to go have it at a spa. It's a luxury to have another professional, an outside professional, design your home. And when your consumer gets that, then the conversation is a little bit easier to handle, right?
Right, exactly. Now, and I've also done the opposite. So I have sometimes worked with clients who have the means, but I didn't even do my dining room all in one fell swoop. And, the
Right.
console, the beautiful console I bought it secondhand. So I put together a very well designed dining room, but it wasn't on the budget that I'm doing for a lot of my clients. And so sometimes I've done the opposite. I can remember one time, and like, it's very trivial, it's minor, but it exemplifies the point. I picked out this beautiful Schumacher fabric for one pillow, one custom pillow that I was going to do for a client. It's a big project that I did, one of my favorite clients, and it was a beautiful project. And I remember going to her apologetically because this fabric was pretty pricey. And I was like, I know it's an expensive pillow and it's just one pillow, but it's really like this fabric is going to tie everything together and you need this pillow. And she's like, Claudia, don't worry. Like, I I can, I can buy that pillow. And like, because I was like going to her as if I were buying the pillow myself for
Right.
myself,
You can't
thinking
do
like,
it.
oh my God, I would never spend this much on a pillow for myself.
She's like, give me
But
two,
she was like,
Claudia.
yeah, she's like, it's no big deal, Claudia. Like, it's just a pillow. I can buy it. So I think we also take a lot of our own
Mm-hmm.
baggage per
Mm-hmm.
se
Mm-hmm.
into that client relationship too. So through the years, I've really tried to get better about, again, just being matter of fact. Like, there's no need to apologize. Like, this is the cost of the pillow. She
Right.
could have
She
bought
doesn't
it
have to
or
take
not,
it.
chosen not to purchase it. Right. And it would be fine.
It's like I always say, right? Don't
So
save your clients' money. They're grown-ups. If you
yeah,
picture, there's,
yeah,
if it's perfect for the space and within the scheme of things, it's within the budget. Don't overthink it, present it. I've said it before. When we go to a professional, whether it's a consumer going to an interior designer or somebody going to a lawyer, we're going to you because we expect the best process and the best opportunity for the best outcome. And if that best outcome includes a $450 pillow or whatever it is, then you got to at least tell me about it. And I can say no. It's almost like a lawyer, like use a lawyer too. If, oh, if I were to spend another 40 billable hours on your murder defense, I might get you off, but you probably don't want to spend that much.
right.
Okay, sweetie. Like,
Yeah,
let's do it. Okay.
right.
Or a doctor. That surgery is going to be twice as expensive as the other one. Even though this one might save your life, the other one maybe not so much. You're right. Let me have the bargain version. Stop, right? Like, we want to know the best of the best. That's
Right.
why we're going to you. And then we make a decision on what we could afford. I want to not leave this conversation without spending a few minutes, just giving some love and shout out to Veronica Solomon. You started to talk about her. We got sidetracked.
Oh, yes.
Veronica Solomon,
Yep.
if you are new to the podcast and you are not aware, she is an interior designer in Katy, Texas. She has an interior design Facebook group called What They Don't Teach You in Design School. She is a tremendous interior designer, both from a technical talent aspect, but also from the business acumen side of it. And just give us a little love on Veronica since you're working with her now.
Well, first of all, she is just a kind, amazing human being. Like, she's generous of spirit.
Mm.
Um, Even within her Facebook group,
Mm-hmm.
she's always giving very sound and thoughtful advice. And working with her has been great. I mean, for me, she said what we're working on is pretty minimal. Updating the services on my website, which uh, just went live yesterday in terms of the updates.
Mm.
So I'm happy to finally have those on there. And again, it goes back to like feeling confident and moving forward in what you do, and knowing that you're trying your best, you're doing a good job, you're always improving your systems. And so with Veronica, um, what drew me to her, besides, of course, that she's a great human being, um, is that for the majority of her career, she was really a solo designer. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically a solo. I have a part-time assistant. Now, she does, her kids work for her now. But for many years, she was very successful as a solo designer. And right now I have an 11-year-old, and she's young, and I'm still trying to be, an active part of her life.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided now, while she's younger, I would not expand into a larger design firm, that I would keep it more as a solo with my assistant. But I wanted to know how to do that right to the best of my ability. And
Mm.
so Veronica is really helping me to do that. Like, all right, if you're like, as a solo, I'm going to have to take on a lot more, wear a lot more of the hats, right? So even though I have my team of things I outsource, like my bookkeeping or my website, I still do the majority of, I do all the sourcing, I do all the designing. I do now have my assistant. I'm gradually letting go of the reins, which is painful for me because I like to be in control of everything, but my assistant Anna, who's awesome, I now have her doing more of the product tracking and managing the procurement. So Veronica's helping me to, I guess, thrive as a solo right now, until my daughter's a little bit older and I can expand.
No, I can see that. You know, it's so funny because I can remember when I first met Veronica, her kids were little and they would listen. You know, she would always be listening to the podcast in the car, and her kids. I remember one time she messaged me, or I saw her at a live event or something, and she said, "When I pick up my kids in the car, they're like, 'Are we going to listen to LuAnn today, Mom?'" And so then one
Yeah.
time I happened to I think she reached out and she said, "It's my son's birthday next week. Would you say hello to him on the podcast?" And I did, and it blew his mind.
Oh,
It's so funny.
that's
But
awesome.
she's all the things you said. She's an awesome lady. She's thoughtful. She's giving. She's generous. I mean, there are times when someone will ask a question in her Facebook group, and I'm like, that answer had to take like 45 minutes. Like I just like, the time that she spends and pours in to each of us in the community is really something to be admired and to be grateful for. So I wanted to make sure. And she was on the show, of course. I'll put her episode in the show notes, as well as the episode with Maria Killam, who's another really fantastic, fabulous lady in the industry as well. So I got to say,
Right.
I'm so thrilled with your growth and the evolution of your business, and to have had a little glimpse of you when you were teetering between hobby and moving towards a real business, and to fast forward to see all of the things that you have accomplished since then and the trajectory that you're on. And I love even that you made a conscious decision. It's not the decision to stay small while your daughter is through her last years of being under your roof. It doesn't matter to me if your decision is to grow while she's under the roof or stay small. It's that you decided what was best for you and your family, and now you're seeking out a mentor who has been there, done that, and getting good actual strategies and tools in order to serve both your clients, but also to serve and honor your daughter and your husband and your family in the way you want for this next period
Right.
of your life. It's terrific. It's the choice to look at it without blinders that I really am calling out. It's not, for others, the choice would be to, how do I grow intentionally while I still usher my children through these formative years? It's you hear what I'm saying, right?
Yes, yes. And I mean, I'm still making, I think, a decision to grow. But it's how can I grow as a solo?
Right.
As you know,
Yeah,
because
it's
there's, I think, a couple different ways I can grow. So, I'm
yeah,
still
you want to
making that
manage it.
decision to
Yeah.
grow, but
Yeah.
in a different way.
I
Right.
love it. I love
Right.
it. It's so, so good. So, so good. Well, I said, Claudia, it's great catching up with you. I totally enjoyed it, and I appreciate
Same here.
all the insights, that you shared and your lessons. And it's just terrific. And I'm just can't wait to see what the next 3 to 5 years bring for you. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Luann. It was a pleasure.
Claudia's desire to become an interior designer sparked when she was building her own custom home. I've heard the story from many of you as well. And the same thing happens, right? The talent doesn't go unnoticed. People start to ask and they say, "Can you do my home as well?" And you know what? Lots of you, like Claudia, decide to take the plunge and go into the interior design field. But then Claudia told us how a little while after that, her husband and her CPA would tell her that the government would see this only as a hobby. So now she was at another crossroads, right? With another choice to make. Was she going to continue a wonderful hobby, or was she going to run an interior design business? This is not an easy decision. If you've had to make it as well, then you know what I mean. But Claudia could see the vision of her business, and she decided to make it happen. Claudia emphasized, and I completely agree, that it's important to invest in your business always, from the beginning and throughout the years. Every level of business brings new hurdles. So why reinvent the wheel? Why figure it out yourself, right? Whether it's a course, coaching, whether you're trying to onboard new employees, or you just need an employee, or a project management system like my Doma Studio. Trust us, for all of us who have done it, we know that it might be financially hard in the beginning to make those investments, but like Claudia's husband said to her, are you doing this or not? So Claudia said yes, and if you are committed to, do it with the best tools that you can get to give you the edge that you need. Another thing that we talked about time and time again on the show is having those hard conversations at the front end, right? Claudia understands that she can and should talk about money, and of course she can and now does it with confidence. But she says she can still remember that little cringe, right? And sometimes feels it when she gets to the pricing part of the conversation. However, she's learned to stand by her fees because she understands what her ideal project is and who her ideal client is. She knows her clients want value, honesty, and service, and she also knows that they are willing to pay for it and that they expect to pay for it, right? So think about yourself if you're going through some of these things as well, and what thought process and what beliefs you are attaching to the conversations that you're having about money. All right. Lastly, one more shout out to Veronica Solomon. Veronica is an incredible designer, mentor, leader, and person. I encourage you to check out her Facebook group, What They Don't Teach You in Design School. It is a treasure trove of information and support. Claudia, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm so proud of you and what you have achieved. You have grown so much and your confidence is shining through. I love that the tables have turned, and where you once listened to every episode to learn how to make your business better, now you have done the same for someone else. I love it. I love it a lot. Thank you so much for listening today. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnn Nigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.